Right. Good afternoon, good morning, good day to everybody wherever you are. As we were just chatting in the chat, we seem to have a lot of people from all over the globe. So that's great to have that sort of representation here. And obviously, today's event is about delivering hyper-personalization in your agency as a service. So what we're going to be covering today is, first of all, a little welcome, introduce myself and introduce Hyperize, an introduction to the product, who is Hyperize, who we are, what we do, and then we're going to be looking at some elements of the service that we can deliver. First of all, looking at image personalization specifically, and then more broader hyper-personalization, and then finally, how to package all of that up into hyper-personalization as a service and how you can deliver that, package it, price it, and all of those sort of things. We will be having a Q&A at the end of the session. So if anybody has any questions, they can pop those into the Q&A. There's a Q&A option on the bar. Please put those in there. It makes it nice and easy for us to tackle those as we go through. Of course, if anybody has any questions, we don't have to wait for the Q&A at the end. Please do create a question or pop something into chat as we go, and we'll try our very best to answer those relevant ones as we go through the session. Just for a reminder, this session is being recorded, so bear that in mind. Your audios will all have been muted by default. So if there is an opportunity at the end of the Q&A for someone to come on to a panel and chat, remember that your audio will be muted by default. As I just mentioned, we will answer questions as we go, but please use the Q&A function to post your questions. Yes, thanks very much. We will be sending out the recording. It will be recorded and uploaded today, and hopefully we'll get that out to you either today or tomorrow morning. So that will be coming out to you guys, and also this deck as well. We'll be sharing that, and so yes, and hopefully that's covered all the bases. If you do have anything else, please feel free to raise your hand if it's not a normal question or anything like that. Any other technical difficulties, and we'll get that covered as well. So before we jump into the actual session, just to introduce myself. Hi everybody, my name's Ian Naylor. For those I haven't met you before, pleasure to meet you and to be here with you today. My background for the last 20 odd years, I think it's the 24th year this year that I've been running and founding, starting online businesses. During that time, had some success in terms of exits, and growth of those businesses, and those businesses have been both B2B and B2C. The first couple of businesses that I started 20 odd years ago were predominantly B2C. More recently, over the last 10 years or so, I've been more focused around B2B. In terms of those businesses, one of the things that has been consistent, if you like, is my go-to-market strategies in using personalization and hyper-personalization in those businesses. To give you an example of that, the very first business that I founded was a car import business, importing cars built to order direct from the manufacturers into the UK, effectively cutting out the dealer network and saving the end user 20–30%. Most of the savings, like I say, went on to the purchaser. So they actually, even though we were selling £20–30,000 worth of vehicle, this was back in 98, 99, when the average transaction online was a book from Amazon for 10 quid or so. There was very fine type margins. So we were always looking for additional revenue opportunities, and we found lots of those in and around services around the cars. Such as finance, warranties, and one of the services that turned out to be amazingly great for us was private number plates. And one of the things we discovered very early on is when somebody came to our website looking to buy a car, we'd actually, bear in mind this was 98, 99, we'd actually print off and post to them a quote pack, an info pack on the vehicle they'd selected with all of the specifications. And what we did was programmatically took their name and worked out the best private plate that was available, and actually kind of put that on the number plate of the car that they were getting a quote for. And that was kind of the first kind of time we started using image personalization in my career. And in the end, we made more money from the private plates, people buying those private plates, than we did from actually selling the cars themselves. And that was a real eye-opener. Like I said, that was back in 98, 99. But to do that kind of the effort that took to create that sort of service was absolutely immense. You know, it was a lot of pre-processing, a lot of manual intervention. But nevertheless, like I say, it was a bit of a game changer for us. And so ever since then, that has always been in my back of my mind in terms of every business I've started since then, and the personalization strategies that we've employed. And so really Hyperize is accumulation of that 20 odd years of founding businesses and implementing hyper-personalization in those to great success from a marketing perspective. And so Hyperize is like I say, the accumulation of that knowledge, but also like I say, the ability to do that at scale using automation. And that's something that's always kind of been in the back of my mind with all these businesses, that wow, I wish I had a toolkit, you know, that actually is, you know, is Hyperize today. So Hyperize, the idea, the concept was initially launched in 2019. We went live in April 2020. So all we've really known is the pandemic from a business perspective, but nevertheless, it's really resonated with lots of sales and marketing teams over that time. And you know, hopefully today, you know, we can broaden it out to yourselves as well. In addition to running and starting businesses, I'm a father of 3, and they certainly keep me busy. And if there was such a thing as spare time on top of all of that, then I like to build and race soapboxes, although obviously in the last couple of years, not been much of that going on with lockdown. Also, as I mentioned, I'm sharing this deck, got my LinkedIn profile here. So if anybody would like to connect, definitely that's a great place to reach out. So let's just kind of jump into it. And one of the things that we did at the start of this year, as we do most years, is reach out and create a survey to help us, and obviously everybody else attending, to understand what personalization is, you know, what the landscape looks like from other digital partners, marketing agencies, and SaaS businesses out there. This year, we surveyed over 2,000 marketing professionals to understand their concept, their kind of view on what that looks like, and you know, the pros and cons of that. So first of all, what I want to do was share some of those questions and results with you to give you a little bit of an understanding of what we're seeing in the marketplace. Just checking the questions before we go. Right, okay, so the first question that we asked when we reached out with this survey was understanding the channels that people want to use personalization in, either are using or want to use. And as we can see here, the predominant channel is email, websites, and social. And really that's no surprise. Obviously, even though email is 30, 40 years old, it's still such a strong channel for, you know, for cold outreach and lead generation. And so being able to create personalization at scale in email is obviously key, and also kind of your websites and obviously socials, socials in terms of LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. We also asked, you know, what sort of you know, I guess the perspective of, you know, impression that people have of the impact of personalization on advancing customer relationships. And as we can see here, the majority of the people that answered this, you know, felt there was either an extremely or a strong impact. So, you know, over 60% of users thought there was either a strong or an extremely strong impact. So it kind of shows that obviously there is a belief, at least, that that personalization does have an impact and is an important part to play in online marketing. And also, you know, in terms of what that impact is, you know, when we can see here, kind of, again, the majority of users, and again, for this question, you're allowed to choose multiple options. And so the majority of people felt it was creating a better customer experience, as well as improving loyalty and driving more leads. And you see there, obviously, the most kind of, or the predominant three out of those from an engagement perspective. So not only are we seeing better experiences, but we're kind of driving more leads as well. And obviously, leads is kind of one of those key drivers, make people want to continue to use personalization and stick with that. Over half of market professionals weren't satisfied though, which is interesting. So when you look at, even though taking into account the previous two questions, in terms of the channels and the kind of the impact, people weren't satisfied with their current levels of personalization. So still, there's a bit of a kind of a mismatch, if you like, between people believing in the capability of personalization, but not necessarily in their skills to implement that. You can see most people not satisfied or only slightly satisfied, with their level of personalization capabilities presently. And I think this is kind of where this comes out, that majority of marketing professionals lack the confidence to successfully implement a true personalization strategy. And so obviously that's kind of where that confidence element comes in. You can see here only slightly confident, and very few people extremely or very confident in their ability to implement personalization strategies. And really that is the kind of, personally, I thought, the very interesting thing that kind of came out of that survey. And it's something we've seen in the last 2 years when we've been running these surveys, is that businesses and marketers and professionals understand and believe personalization as a service is key for driving engagement, driving a positive outcome, but they're lacking the capabilities or the understanding of how to deliver that successfully or at scale. And that really is kind of where we see the opportunity, for our existing agency partners, where they're delivering and making a lot of success is, providing done for you hyper-personalization services, whether that's in lead gen or marketing, or generally in kind of sales teams, implementing that in a very efficient way, potentially using Hyperize, of course. And so that is kind of what we're going to be focused on today, looking at, how you can take advantage of this kind of gap in the market in terms of the intent, the kind of the people interested in that, and the ability or lack of ability to do that, should I say. So what we're going to do now is look at one of the core components of Hyperize, and that's image personalization. So when we're talking about personalization, obviously there's lots of different ways that personalization can be delivered, and we're probably, everybody here on the call is delivering it in one way or another. Even simple personalization like hi, first name, and kind of, obviously personalization in terms of determining how you're going to reach out to somebody and doing that in a personal way. But there's actually more efficient ways of doing that, or better ways, and not really better, as in we should still be doing the textual personalizations in our outreach, but there's ways we can augment that and implement that in a more effective way. Now, we've all heard the phrase, an image paints 1,000 words. So, obviously, if we're all familiar with that, it's because we've heard it a lot. What I asked recently to my LinkedIn audience was, the questions you see here, do you think using images in outreach can have a positive impact? Now, I did expect a positive outcome, a positive yes in this, because, we see images, throughout, wherever there's communication, but we very rarely see images in outreach, in sales outreach or whatever, maybe more so in marketing, certainly less in sales. And so I didn't expect it to be so overwhelming as it was. You see here, 86% of people believe, that images can have a positive impact in outreach, but nevertheless, very few people do that. And I think that's kind of because it's difficult to, one, envisage what that image should be, and two, to do that in an effective way, or at least that was the case until today. But why is it that we would want to use images in outreach? What is it we're trying to solve? And I think this, these kind of three stats we see here really kind of paint that picture, very, very well in terms of, broadly, user engagement is getting harder. We've all got the same number of minutes and hours in a day, but the amount of messages that we're receiving, marketing and sales messages, are increasing rapidly. You know, typically 5,000 marketing messages a day we're seeing, you know, and growing. And so, you know, as we're receiving more, as we're being bombarded by more messages, the chance of engagement is going down, and the amount of time we have to grab someone's attention is reducing as well. And that, you know, the reason why image personalization plays so well into that is that us as humans, we're inherently visual learners. Majority of us are visual learners, but all of us process images significantly quicker than text. As you see here, the scientific study carried out showed that 60,000 times quicker a human brain processes an image over text. And so what we're going to do today is look at you know, how we can leverage that. I read another interesting study that was actually in The Guardian a few weeks ago. It was talking about dyslexia, which obviously people that are dyslexic find, you know, writing and reading text kind of more difficult than a standard user. Now, CEOs of businesses are 3 times more likely to be dyslexic than a typical user. So if you wanted to reach, you know, high-end decision makers, then again, leaning on images and visualizations can significantly help, because they're 3 times more likely to kind of really kind of appreciate and kind of lean into that than a standard user. So again, kind of, so just saw a message there tapping in the background. So I think that's my other monitor. I'll try not to lean on my desk too much as I'm as I'm talking. But yeah, absolutely, kind of triggering using images to trigger kind of a visual communication can really help. And so, but because images are processed so quickly, there's when we include personalization of those images, it triggers what we call a pattern interrupt. And that pattern interrupt is a psychological behavior that just puts a brake on the brain. When we see something that's personalized, it just, the brain's can, hey, pay attention to that. That's something different. You know, you really need to have a look at that. And so that increased mind share that we get from that pattern interrupt, that leads to more people, more engagement, more people understanding your call to action, and more people taking that. And that really is the key to what we're providing here. Now, of course, there are lots of different ways we can use images purposefully in our outreach. So, for example, within Hyperize, our general outreach is, you know, we're trying to get people to jump into we're trying to get people to jump into a call, book some time in our diary. And so what we're doing is kind of mimicking that and using other psychological traits. In this case, having a simple image here, as you can see this example here of me smiling and waving, with some great personalization there in terms of the person's name on the board, using their profile image pulling through. Obviously, this is a LinkedIn message here, and also their logo. And what we're doing there is leveraging the law of reciprocity, where we're able to kind of compel them to want to respond and reply simply by, you know, offering a smile and a wave, making them feel good about that outreach, creating that human-to-human connection, and more likely getting a great response, like we can see in this example here. This is a response from Rebecca, who's the CEO founder of Loud Marketing, you know, a significant sized marketing agency, and her response to a cold outreach is, love this, when can we chat? Now, let's be honest, we all know nobody really enjoys a cold outreach email. Certainly nobody loves cold outreach. But when we're using this sort of style here, again, you can see with Rebecca's name on the board and her logo, it's triggering that feel-good factor and elevating her from like to love. And therefore, you can imagine that when I spoke to Rebecca, you know, with her starting off from a position of love, it was a much easier task to be able to, you know, convince her of the service or of the call to action and get her to take that. And so that really is the kind of the key that we're trying to create here, is creating that feel-good factor and getting people, you know, using the icebreaker to get through the door and for, you know, to kind of have more time to talk about your call to action. Another great way that I found that works amazingly well is to try and minimize the ask, to reduce the friction. So for example, again, when I'm reaching out, ultimately you might call it a demo or a sales call or a discovery call, but rather than phrasing it or kind of framing it as any of those, I kind of say, hey, let's have a chat and a coffee. And that ask of a chat and a coffee is obviously significantly smaller. Most people will think of a chat and a coffee in their mind, maybe as 5, 10, 15 minutes, versus if you say to somebody, let's have a discovery call, or a sales call or a demo call, that could feel significantly longer. And so framing your ask, and then and back it up visually, in this case, with myself, with the coffee cup and some personalization around that, really helps to increase the take-up of that call to action, simply by, I'd say kind of with this simple visualization. And that kind of leads to responses like this. You can see here from Edgar from Pulseway here, who was actually a paying customer. You can see his response: I never reply to these emails. This is the first one that worked. And that really is the key, trying to, obviously, as I said before, a lot of people have a distaste for cold outreach. So being able to reach out and, remove that, take that off the table, so they're open to what you have to say, by creating that moment of delight. In this case, with Edgar putting his business name onto my screen and his logo, as well as obviously his name, creating a really nice moment of delight. And that's kind of really what we're trying to do. Elevating our prospects' feel-good factor is going to boost engagements and people taking a call to action. You can see here just a few comments from people who are responding to this sort of outreach, thinking it's cool, thinking it's great, taking the call to action in terms of booking it, and I could have pages and pages of these, because what it really is doing is, just making them kind of feel just happier about that outreach rather than, a bit miffed about it. And that kind of really is, once you've done that, makes life a lot easier in terms of having that sort of conversation. But not every call to action you're going to send out, every campaign you're going to do is about getting into somebody's diary. For example, one of our clients, G2, what G2 do is they review software and services, and they do that by category, and quarterly they produce these sort of like quadrant reports we can see here, or kind of category leader reports. Now in these two image examples we're looking at here, you can see they're both personalized to Apple, but where you see the name Apple or the logo, they're all dynamic elements that are personalizing on the fly to each prospect that they're reaching out to. And so what they're doing is they're telling the story in their outreach of, hey, prospect, if you work with G2, you could potentially become a category leader. Work with us and we'll make you a category leader. And so visualizing that, accompanying that story with a visualization that tells that story, showing the success, and kind of aspirationally telling that story, can really help and resonate. And you can see in their case, it increased their reply rates from 15 to 48%. So threefold, a 3x uplift, simply by just adding in a little bit of personalization to trigger that pattern interrupt so people are paying attention, and then having the image there to reinforce what they were saying. Another example from another one of our clients is reply.io. So for those that haven't heard of reply.io, they're actually a cold email platform themselves. So you can imagine that Reply do know a thing or two about a cold email platform. So being able to reach out and improve their kind of success, if you like, from cold email, from already a well-optimized campaign. You can imagine that it was no mean feat. But you see in this case, what they've done is they've kind of created these image banners and kind of diagrammatically telling a story of, hey, if you use reply.io, it's very simple to import your list, create a campaign, personalize it, and grow. So telling a little story, and again, simply just adding some personalization in there in terms of the client's logo, the client's name, and even the client's profile image. And so, as I said before, and as you can see here, that led to a doubling of replies in that campaign. This is another example, but a different example, again, from reply.io, where they're again, visualizing the story kind of almost in the kind of pleasure and pain of, what life is like, without reply.io, a bit of a chaotic mess, and then with them, just a nice streamlined multi-channel solution. And just with one very, very simple personalization, just the client's logo. But of course, if you imagine if you received an outreach and there was an image in there and it had your logo in that image, and that's something that would really kind of stand out and jump out to you and help trigger that pattern interrupt that we mentioned before. And so being able to do that led to an increase in reply rate from 11 to 21%. So massive, massive uplift, simply by providing that personalized image visualization. And the other great thing that was reply.io in this case is they were looking at their kind of North Star metric, if you like, for their campaigns was reply rate. Something obviously their name vibes off. And you can see in these two examples of before and after, it certainly did increase their reply rate. But interestingly, what they also were able to do and what they kind of monitored was the increase in open rate and delivery rate into the primary inbox. You see both of those metrics increasing significantly. And what we've seen time and again with our clients is that when you do start to include personalized images in your outreach, it's because we're increasing the engagement, you're getting more people replying or clicking, taking action from your emails versus either doing nothing or even worse, marking you as spam. Then it kind of acts as a pseudo domain warm. It's actually increasing your domain reputation because of that increased engagement. And that increased engagement means you're going to get better delivery into your inbox, better open rate, and then of course, better engagement rates, better reply or click rates as a result of that. And so again, using that, there's these kind of soft benefits, if you like, of domain reputation improvements. Another example from another one of our clients is using product images. So in this case, Hubstaff, another one of our clients, they're actually a timesheet app. So they target businesses that have lots of remote workers, and they're targeting maybe the HR manager or that kind of type of role. And so again, you can see in this example, I'm using Apple as example data or example prospect. In this case, Tim Cook from Apple. But what we can see in this product image of the dashboard and of their app type solution, that we've got their logo pulled through, we've got their client name on the dashboard, on the app again pulling through their logo, and even the map here is personalized. And so many different elements of this image triggering those pattern interrupts to get people to pay more attention. And what they saw is that their story when they're reaching out is saying, hey, stop managing your remote workers, through spreadsheets, do it in a more efficient way. And so visualizing how that works, really helps. And what that led to was a massive uplift in terms of people taking that call to action. When they did their first test, they actually tried 4 or 5 different types of images. The one we were just looking at there was the winner. But out of the 4 or 5, I think it was 5 images they used, the average of those was 11%. But when we compare that to their baseline, which with no personalized image was for 3%, that's like a 3.5x uplift on the average of all those different image tests. But actually, when we look at the lowest performing image, was still 10.5%. So even the lowest performing image was still 3 times more effective than not using one at all. And I think the winner was something like 12.5%. So like a 4x uplift, which is quite astounding, really, when we think about, just by making a simple change of putting a personalized image in there, again, simple to do, kind of you create that image template once, and then, for the thousands of people they're reaching out to, each one is receiving a personalized experience. So what we've seen there is a couple of different ways that we can use personalized images to tell a story, whether it's humanized GIFs like we saw with our own outreach, whether it's telling an aspirational story, showing success like we saw with G2, or even kind of showing product images, or diagrammatic explanations like we saw with Reply or here with Hubstaff. So hopefully that's given you some food for thought in terms of the types of personalized images we can use. But what I thought would be fun would be to have a little quick quiz, but don't get too frightened, nothing heavy, just for fun. but again, from one of our other clients. So this is another one of our clients. This is Orca Security. And I think why this one is interesting is that Orca, really target enterprise level customers. Some of their deal sizes are 5-6 figures, and more. And they're targeting CISOs, the Chief Information Security Officers. So, C-suite, high level decision makers, like say in big enterprise businesses. And one of their strategies for finding businesses is to sponsor events, like in this case, the Black Hat event. And what they do is once they've sponsored the event, whether that's an online digital event or a physical event, they get obviously all the attendee lists and then they reach out to them. So not a completely cold outreach campaign. Obviously they're already slightly aware of Orca, but still, pretty cold in terms of the outreach. But what we've got here is 3 different images. So I'm just going to launch the poll here for anybody that would like to play along as we go, just to kind of think, which image out of these 3 is going to be the winner. So we've got 3 here. The first one, again, as you can see, personalizing to my good friend Tim Cook from Apple, just vibing off the gift certificate. So what Orca do is they have this. If you've got more than 1,000 cloud assets, that kind of pre-qualifies you as an enterprise customer. So they had this kind of stories that if you have more than 1,000 cloud assets and you book a demo, we'll give you a bribe, in this case, a $200 gift card. And so quite a convoluted story. So they wanted to use personalization to help tell that story in an effective way. And so the first test they did was with this gift card, again, using Black Hat being the kind of the event that they'd attended, including their own logo there to kind of tie those 2 together. They've got the kind of the value there, front and center in the middle, and the personalization reasonably subtly, but certainly enough to trigger the pattern interrupt there in the bottom left. Then they went on and had the second example here, which was like in an event kind of stage scenario. So again, vibing off the fact that they'd all kind of attended this event at Black Hat, obviously with the personalization there on the board on the stage. And then finally, we've got Todd here, who is actually one of the SDRs at Orca. And again, similar kind of vibing off the gift card, but showing a little bit more information, having that humanized face of the SDR that they were going to be booking in with, and the kind of the post-it note to tell the story. And so let's have a look at the poll. We can see we've got the gift voucher here running at about 15%, the event at 25%, and Todd here at 60%. So certainly the majority of you there thinking that Todd is the winner. So let's end that poll there, and let's have a look at the results. As we can see, the majority of you got that right. It was Todd that was the winner. So, it was, again, going back to that kind of human-to-human contact, being able to show, the person, bringing that forward in the funnel, the person that, you're reaching out to, had the biggest impact. Now, if we look here, they also did a baseline test. That baseline test was with no personalized image in the outreach at all. And that achieved a 1.7% conversion rate. So we can see that the winner here, Todd, not quite doubling the engagement rates, but certainly a big uplift from the 1.7 to 3.1. But they didn't rest there. They didn't finish there. They actually went a little bit further and created some additional images. So let's do another little poll here. And what we've got is we've got 3 different images here from 3 different SDRs on their team. We've got Steve here, number 1, top left. We've got Todd again, number 2, and then we've got Eric here, number 3. Now, just to give you a little bit of context on these images, when Orca came on as a customer, it was just at the start of lockdown. So all of these 3 guys, they were all at home when they were asked to create their personalized images. And so they were just doing with whatever they had at home. And Steve here, he's actually just stood in his hallway in his apartment. We've got Todd here, number 2, who's actually in his home office, and I think kind of looking quite regal, but one of the things we'd suggested is maybe if you've got a whiteboard or something like that, you can add that, and something we can use to kind of put a personalized message on. But in this case, Todd didn't have a whiteboard at home, so this is actually just a picture off the wall, which he's just turned around You know, and you see that actually this is like, rather than a board, this is actually just brown tape holding whatever picture it is that's on the other side. And then obviously we've got this really quite zany one of Eric here, for whatever reason, had an Orca suit at home. So, I mean, obviously working for Orca, that probably makes sense, you know, leaning into the brand. But certainly when I first saw these kind of array of images, I was maybe a little bit taken back with the Eric one here, considering what I mentioned before, you know, of them being enterprise level, you know, big ticket deals, you know, targeting C-suite level. I thought maybe this one is going to be maybe a little bit too zany for the intended audience. So I thought it was a cert that Todd was going to win this one. And actually, looking at the poll, what I can see here, we've got Steve at 19%, we've got Todd here at 48%, and Eric at 33%. So the majority of you are kind of agreeing with what I thought was going to be the winner in terms of this kind of quite regal-looking Todd in his beautiful chair. So let's end the poll there with Todd the winner, and look at the actual results. So the majority of you will be surprised to know that Eric was actually the winner. And again, if we kind of compare and contrast this to the baseline of 1.7%, you know, an absolute smasher, you know, more than doubling, almost tripling the engagement rate, the kind of people taking the kind of the call to action of booking a call, you know, when he had this, you know, slightly zany image. Now, at the time when we did this, like I say, it was early lockdown. I thought I consoled myself because I you know, got it wrong. I consoled myself thinking, that's just because it's early lockdown. You know, people are looking for some kind of light comedic relief, and so, you know, that was why, you know, Eric was the winner there. But Eric is still using this or variations of this image and still getting great conversion rates, still smashing it with that. So I think, you know, people even at high level in enterprise, you know, like to, you know, have a smile put on their face, you know, and so that's why it was so successful in terms of the results. But when we look at the statistics of that campaign as a whole, just looking at the kind of black and white stats rather than the glitzy images, one of the things that kind of jumps out is the uplift that they've been able to create. So if we look at the baseline, they actually sent out 700 messages. So that's 700 prospects receiving a message, and that generated 12 bookings, so a 1.7% conversion. So in total, the entire list they had was 7,000. So if they'd have just stuck with that baseline, you know, they would have probably expected to get somewhere around 120 bookings, right? It's kind of just extrapolating out that kind of conversion rate there. So about 120. In the end, they actually got 262. So that's an additional 178 demos booked by simply using personalized images. Obviously, as we've mentioned, they were progressively optimizing that as they went on. So actually, if they'd have just somehow looked into, you know, their GIF images to start with, it would have been, and you look at these conversion rates, that would have been over 400 demos booked. So if you think about the bookends of, you know, what they could have done with the baseline and what they could have done if they'd have got the, you know, used the best thing to start with, 120 versus 400, you know, absolute massive uplift in people taking your call to action simply by, you know, using personalized images in their outreach. So again, more food for thought in terms of the types of images we could be using for our clients, you know, to get similar sort of uplifts and results for them. And in terms of where we can use these images, we can use them throughout our channels. You know, images are inherently digital and portable. So, you know, wherever there's an option to add an image, you know, we can add a Hyperize image. Now, email platforms, Hyperize integrates with hundreds of different email platforms. So whatever your clients are using, there's a great chance that we're going to be integrating with that already. So, you know, whether it's the high-end Salesforce, you know, or the kind of the de rigueur standard of MailChimp, or many others in between, you can simply just copy your Hyperize image template, add them into your email template, and then every time that email template is used, in a campaign, in an automation, it's just going to dynamically personalize on the fly. So a very simple set and forget solution that gives you the ability to use personalization at scale in any sort of email campaigns. But it's not always kind of want to kind of use them at scale. Sometimes we just want to kind of add one-to-ones. We have you covered there too. We also have a Chrome extension that allows you to add personalized images directly into your emails as well. So like, for example, if I go into my email here and compose a message and I type in here, oh, that's Tim, I use my go-to personalization buddy of Tim at Apple. And you can see as soon as I go into let me just open this up a little bit so we can see more. As we go into the email body, we have this little button pop up and I can select any of the personalized images from my account. So if I wanted to include one of these, I can just select any image at all. So for example, this one here, and what that's going to do is personalize. In this case, we see, hi Tim. Obviously we can change the size of the image to best fit. And so very simply, one-to-ones or at scale, we can add personalization to that outreach. Another great kind of method or channel of engaging people is obviously LinkedIn. A lot of us are using LinkedIn. And again, the same philosophy is, we can embed images into LinkedIn, and we can also use what we call personalized short links to create these dynamic previews, and using those really has a great benefit. The great thing about personalized short links is not only does it provide an image in a message, but also it makes it clickable to a call to action, so we can redirect when the user clicks on those to wherever we're going to find benefit. Maybe that's our calendar link, could be our website. Lots of different ways to do that, and I'll show you exactly in a moment. But the other great thing is if you include a personalized short link in a connection note, when somebody accepts that connection, it's going to pop out straight away, as you can see here in this example. And when it pops out, they're going to see, immediately without any further automation, they're going to get that personalization and just see that. So let's just jump over to LinkedIn and just have a look at an example here. So in this case, I've got Divya here, and we've got in this message sequence, we've got two different types of personalized images. We've got the first one here, which is kind of like my icebreaker, just thanking her for a connection. And you can see in this case, when I click the image, we're just going to open up full screen, but we're still going to be in LinkedIn. So a great way of creating that sort of a kind of moment of delight without it being too much of an ask. In this case, just saying, you win, and we've just connected, and we've got this image here that's connect for, and we've got the winning line here is actually her profile image. So just a very simple way, to kind of portray the kind of what's going on. We've connected and doing it in a delightful way that's going to put a smile on their face. You can see here in this case, Divya responding by "It's my pleasure." So kind of just kind of vibing off the kind of the goodwill that we're generating there. And then here we've got an example of a personalized short link, again kind of getting a positive response. In this case, we can see we shared the link and we've got this beautiful personalized image here. Again, personalized Divya. With her profile image, you can see her profile image there pulled through directly, with a little love heart, and also a personalized title underneath the image. And you can see here that this is obviously clickable as well. When we click this, in this case, it's going to actually go off to an event page for the event that we're looking at now. So yeah, a bit meta, but you see here that we can have these personalized experiences, and that could go through to wherever you want. In this case, we're going to an event page. We can actually go to our own website, and with Hyperize, we can even personalize that, that experience on the website as well. So lots of different ways that we can create that sort of personalized experience. In this case, we're using automation to do that, but we also have a personalized short link Chrome extension as well. So in the same way that we had a Chrome extension to add the button into Gmail, we now also have a Chrome extension that will add that button into LinkedIn. So you can see here, Divya, if I want to send her another message with a short link, I can simply open up the short link, clicking this button. I can select any of my personalized images. So for example, maybe this one here, love to chat. I could type in a link that's going to appear underneath the message, or I can even put a placeholder in there and say this is for you, for example, and then also a destination URL. As I mentioned, that could be any sort of destination URL you want. Could be your calendar link, could be your website, your landing page, could be a YouTube video, whatever it is you're trying to drive engagement to. And simply once you've chosen those 3 elements, clicking submit is going to create that short link and copy it directly into the clipboard. So I can just paste that in, and now we've got that personalized short link there. So let's just say, hey, Divya, this is for you. So if you want to do some manual outreach, we've got that short link. You can see here when I send this, what we're going to see is that short link is going to unfurl, and we're going to get a personalized experience. In this case, you can see, Divya, this is just for you, and we've got all that personalization. And again, this is clickable. And now, in this case, obviously, I chose a landing page. And so now we're putting through personalization for her. We've got personalization around the call to action. Let me just delete this message as well. We didn't really need to send that to her. Remove that. But let's go back to the page. You see here, again, we've got personalization around the call to action. We've got a Calendly embedded here. We've even got a personalized video.
Hi, Divya. Did you know videos generate the highest level of engagement?
I won't play the whole video, but you get the idea that we created a real opportunity to create a moment of delight here, where we're creating that personalization at multiple steps. We've got the personalization in the message. We've got the personalization on the landing page, creating true hyper-personalization. So let's just jump back to the deck there. And again, as I mentioned, we do have a link here to the Chrome extension that allows you to use the personalized short link creator. Now, we do integrate with a whole bunch of different LinkedIn automation tools, although I would be remiss of me if I didn't point out my favorite. And the reason why I'm doing this for LinkedIn and not for email is that with pretty much all of our email integrations, they're all great. They all work in very much the same sort of way. And so there isn't really one platform from a differentiation perspective that works better than others. Same isn't necessarily true for LinkedIn. Obviously, LinkedIn, there's lots of different ways that you can run automation in LinkedIn, embedding messages. We saw personalized short links, and Expandy.io is one of our integration partners, but they offer the best integration capabilities in terms of supporting emails, in-mails, follow-up messages, connection notes, and lots of other types of engagement around events, groups, and posts. We've looked at obviously lots of different LinkedIn automation platforms as part of our integrations, and certainly we feel that this offers the best opportunities, but by no means is it the only one. If you are interested in other integration opportunities, just go to Hyperize, to the product menu and choose integrations. You'll be able to see all of the different platforms that we integrate with from a LinkedIn perspective, as well as lots of other types of platforms. But hopefully that's given you a good idea of what we can do in email, in LinkedIn, using personalized images. And that kind of leads on to what we're talking about with hyper-personalization. And I've already touched upon that a little bit with some of those examples, that what we found that when we're using personalized short links in emails, in LinkedIn, is we're getting significantly higher click-through rates, over an 85% uplift in click-throughs when versus when using a personalized GIF versus a link. And what we saw in LinkedIn was a really high click-through rate from those engaged users. In this case, in this example here, from about 1,500 prospects at the top of the funnel, people we were trying to connect with, and created 45 demos, getting a really high connection and engagement and click-through rate, and also people taking that call to action when they got to those LinkedIn pages. And one of the examples we looked at before was Hubstaff, and obviously we saw this image before, and they used that image in their outreach. But what they also did, and as we saw there, they got a good uplift in terms of people clicking through from their emails. But also what they did is they personalized their landing page. So with Hyperize, whatever your client's website is built on, you can personalize those landing pages using Hyperize. You can see in this case, they personalized the header, they personalized the call to action button, And of course, they personalized all the product images on their page. And that actually led to a doubling of conversions on the page, more people taking that call to action. And also what we see from our own analytics is that not only are more people taking action, they're also lingering on the site longer. So they're hanging around more on the site, visiting more pages. Obviously, that also has some soft benefits from SEO as well. But when we look at Hubstaff, at their campaign, across those two steps, we're going to get this compounding impact. So yes, we kind of 3.5x the click-through rates from the emails, but also they doubled the conversion rates on the page. So going from a 10 to a 21% conversion uplift. So what that means in real numbers is that before, when Hubstaff was sending out a campaign, for every 300 emails they're sending out, they were getting 1 sign up. Whereas now, for every 300 emails they send up, they're getting like 7 signups. So, a significant uplift, a 7x uplift across the funnel by implementing that hyper-personalization. And it's not just our clients that see this. HubSpot did a significant survey. It was over 300,000 websites that they reviewed, and over a 6-month time frame. So, significant in size and quantity. And what they found is, on average, a 202% uplift in conversions when personalization was used around the call to action. So, real big uplift in terms of website personalization as well as outreach. We've seen that with other clients and other case studies as well. For example, Intercom, they were personalizing their landing pages and getting a 3x uplift, 3 times the amount of people taking the call to action when the personalization was used, company name and custom images on their page. So again, hopefully it's given you some more food for thought in terms of the experiences and the uplifts that can happen. So what I wanted to do now is just kind of delve into how you guys can use this, how you can implement and leverage this into service yourself. And so what I wanted to do before we start talking about Hyperize is look at what else is in the marketplace. What are the other opportunities or options that people are looking at if they were thinking about personalization right now. And so I picked a couple of different solutions that are out in the marketplace. Optimizely is probably one of the market leaders in terms of website personalization, certainly an enterprise level. And if we look at their costs, significant costs, like $2,500 per month starting point. So if you've got a highly trafficked website, you could be $20,000 per month for using that service. So certainly that kind of discounts them for lots of businesses out there, because obviously that's kind of crazy money, for that sort of service. Another service out there that's kind of more of a mid-level, if you like, certainly in terms of cost, is Proof. And Proof Experiences is again another website personalization capability tool, and their prices start at $799 per month. So you can see even between these two, still a big difference, but still quite a big cost. And obviously both of these still leveraging an external solution, in this case Clearbit, for the kind of data enrichment side. So you're going to have an additional cost on top of those two services, for the data enrichment. So and then on top of that, it doesn't even end there. You've got these additional costs for implementing it. So to implement these sort of solutions, they're offering strategy consulting and personalization services that can run into tens of thousands. And this is use Proof or Proof service, which is effectively $7,000 to implement, to review and consult and provide a consultation on what should be implemented, and then to actually implement it, $7,000 on top of the $700-800 per month to implement it. And on top of that, you've got video personalization. As we saw before, adding personalized videos to your page can really help. And obviously, we're as a market leader, Vidyard are kind of there. They provide a couple of different services. Probably most people are familiar with their simple record and send solution, but they also have a video personalization at scale solution where you can add in placeholders into the videos you create. And that solution starts at $5,000 per video. So if you wanted to add at scale video to your solutions, you got another £5,000 right there in that solution. And then on top of that, we've got image personalization, and certainly probably one of the bigger names in image personalization, other than ourselves, of course, is Nifty Images. And again, they're targeting enterprise predominantly. And you look at their enterprise solution, it's the only one that includes support for lots of different data sources, which is kind of obviously something that comes out the box with Hyperize. As we saw before there, we've got integrations with hundreds of different platforms. And so, having that integration with data sources is really key to be able to do that at scale. You can see their price starts at $750, for the enterprise plan that includes that sort of capability. So when we look at that and we add all of that up together with nifty images for using image personalization and outreach, use proof. So again, we're choosing the cheapest solution out of the two there for website personalization, Vidyard for video personalization on your landing page, and data enrichment cost. We're looking at about £4,000 to £5,000 per month as solutions that people are paying obviously lots of money for already. Lots of businesses using all of these solutions, and on top of that, you've got the setup costs as well. With Vidyard for the video, with use proof for the website personalization, and so you've got an upfront cost of circa £12,000 and a monthly cost north of £4,000, and that's kind of really the solutions that exist in the marketplace right now that you're going to be kind of competing against, or coming up against. And so, how can we position our services, or how can you position your service from a done-for-you personalization at scale, and still be relevant and still be appealing versus all of those costs that we've seen there? And that really is kind of what we're going to look at here, that this is the sort of thing how our existing agencies are packaging up their services, and presenting it to their clients. They're offering a kind of an upfront initial kind of program. It could be 30, 60, 90 days. Again, that normally depends on the size of the client, the number of campaigns they've got, and obviously maybe their appetite, for costs. And we've seen clients charge up, somewhere anywhere between $2,000 to $10,000, for that initial analysis, recommendation, and implementation piece. Looking at their outreach in terms of email, their outreach in LinkedIn, their website landing pages, even looking at offline campaigns, just putting together this true hyper-personalization in their funnel and charging an upfront fee for doing that. And then on top of that, charging a monthly retainer for maintenance, and also looking for adding additional services, such as chatbot personalization, obviously video personalization, and just generally improving their workflow automation through personalization, and charging, we've seen agencies charge, actually north of $2,000 I've seen more recently, but somewhere in between, say, $500 to $2,000 they're charging, providing those sort of services. Now, that's the sort of kind of revenue you could be looking to achieve. Certainly, we've got many agencies already achieving these sort of numbers, and actually north of that already. And what is the cost for you for doing that? Well, let's have a look at where the costs are from a Hyperize perspective. So first of all, our costs for our standard plans, individual plans, start at $49 per month for image personalization. It's $99 when you include the website personalization, and $149 when you include the video personalization. So that's kind of sort of the costs that we can be looking at. But when we look at agency plans and our white label plans, the unit cost per customer kind of dropping down to as low as $50 per customer, $75 on our agency plan for your first 20 customers. So think about that, you could be charging somewhere £5,000 to £10,000 up front, and anywhere between $500 to a couple of £1,000 per month. Your cost, other than your own time, the software cost is only going to be $50 to $75 per client. And even if you don't want to take out a plan, you want your client to direct them and get the solution themselves, we even have an affiliate program where you can use that and get commission, which starts at 20%, but actually increases 30% after you've referred 10 customers. So hopefully that's giving you, again, some more food for thought in terms of the sort of positioning you can provide to your customers, in terms of some of the other costs that you can point out there, some of the ways that we can package up the solution in terms of the different kind of phases of the implementation, and also some of the kind of realistic costs that you can expect to incur from that. I really hope that this session has been useful in terms of planting some seeds, in terms of how you can implement personalization. Obviously, we looked at some compelling examples of uplift from ourselves and from our clients, but also in terms of how we can position that. So what I want to do now is to realize we are kind of coming up against the hour mark. So open up the floor for any questions that anybody has. Love to answer those, and hopefully make a difference. So let's have a look. Just going to come over to the questions here. I see there's a question here about Engage. I saw Engage on your scrolling list of email providers. Hyperize integrates with, would love to use, but I'm actually just asked for them a few days ago and they said they don't integrate. Well, actually, we do integrate with Engage Bay. So I'm not sure, maybe they weren't familiar with that with the person you were speaking to, but yeah, let's just kind of clarify that. Maybe I will reach out to them after the call. But yeah, from their CRM perspective, we've got a full integration with them where we can add personalized images into their outreach. Essentially, they have a HTML block in their platform. We can just simply drag that in. You add the Hyperize code into that, and that will just personalize directly on the fly. Hopefully that answers that question. Just reading through, do you have any other questions here? You see I'm saying, okay. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. The presentation, we'll be providing this to everybody along with the recording. Once this session's finished, I'll be uploading the recording and making that available to everybody. You'll get that in the email, whatever email you used to register for this event. And it's got a couple more questions here coming through. Can you quickly cover what people see as far as images when they are not connection? Yeah, so what we saw there, let me see if I can just kind of get back to the slide there, that when somebody connects, before somebody connects with you on LinkedIn, they won't see the image. Essentially, the connection note, the connection, should I say, on LinkedIn is a connection note. So when we go to LinkedIn, let me just do a search here to find somebody I'm not connected with. So we can see here, Brian is a second. So I could create a short link for him based on what we've already selected before. I love the chat image, the title, and the destination URL. So now I've got that in my board. I can actually, I should have done it for Daisy because I can't connect. Let's just do it for Daisy instead. So if I want to connect, see, this is actually a note rather than a message. So I could just add that in there along with any other message. They won't see the image initially, but as we saw here, as soon as they click the accept button, the message is actually going to pop up, and they're going to see that. And again, the image will show dynamically, so they will see that on the point of accepting the connection. And you can see here, just from this little kind of GIF, when you accept it, bam, it will just pop up automatically. Couldn't find the LinkedIn message extension. Yeah, you should be able to let's just go to the Chrome store here. We go to the Chrome store, just search for Hyperize, and you can see, just need to click this button. It shows 3 to start. Just click the more extensions. What you'll see there is this additional one. So just need to kind of just click the show more to extend. And you can see there it is there, Hyperize short link creator. Right now, as we stand today, this is a new extension we just launched very recently. Right now, it supports LinkedIn. It's going to be supporting Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and many other outreach platforms. So that's going to be your go-to for creating personalized short links. Like I said, that's going to be coming out very soon with those additional platforms. But right now, you can access it and get full advantage of all of the areas of within LinkedIn. And as you saw there, when we do a search, they're going to be there appearing with searches. When we go into messaging, we're going to see them, the option there. And equally, if we look at somebody's profile, we're also going to see there. So wherever they've got the opportunity to send a message, you're going to see that there in LinkedIn as well. So hopefully that's given us, or given everybody here, a chance to ask any questions. I can't see any more coming through, but if you do have any other questions, please do let us know. just keep that open just for another minute or two, just to see if we have anything else. But if not, I just want to thank everybody for their time today. Really appreciate it. I know we've got a lot of other things kind of drawing us away, kind of keeping us busy. So I'm very appreciative of your time. And I just want to say one final time, thank you everybody for attending. I can see that there aren't any other questions coming through. So all that leaves for me to say is, again, appreciate your time today and look forward to answering any questions in the future when you start to implement these services for your clients. Appreciate everybody's time again. Thanks again. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.